The order is given to strike. But then, at the very last possible moment, the military operation is halted. Instead of attacking energy infrastructure, the president steps into the Oval Office and announces that the U.S. is actively negotiating with Iran, claiming their leadership is, quote, talking sense. Yet, just one day later, that same administration publicly threatens serious regime change in Tehran. In Tehran, the official response is equally unyielding. The foreign ministry explicitly denies any talks are happening, accusing Washington of trying to manipulate energy markets to escape a geopolitical trap. But beneath these firm public denials, Iranian officials quietly concede that they are receiving messages from the United States, delivered through friendly intermediary nations. These public contradictions form the core architecture of an operation built on strategic ambiguity. The conflicting signals follow a calculated three-pronged strategy. The first pillar is security. Pausing a planned military strike buys tactical time while keeping the threat of force actively hovering over the adversary. The second pillar is economic. Oval Office statements are deployed directly to shift global energy markets. The third, most covert pillar is intelligence. Proxy nations pass messages, not to broker peace, but to map the adversary's internal command structure. The interaction of these three pillars characterizes modern statecraft, where rhetoric is a tool for maneuvering rather than communication. The economic pillar became visible when the U.S. president announced he had received a very significant price-related gift tied to oil and gas, while offering zero specifics. The reality of that statement lies here, at the Strait of Hormuz, the critical maritime choke point between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Due to escalating military pressure, numerous commercial oil tankers linked to U.S. interests had been stranded near these waters. Evidence suggests Iran quietly permitted a selection of these ships to pass without heavy punitive charges. This behavior illustrates unofficial signaling, where a state slightly eases logistical pressure to send a cooperative message to its adversary without making public concessions. This chart tracks the price of Brent crude, the major global price benchmark for Atlantic Basin oil. The moment the president publicly hinted at this diplomatic progress, global energy markets instantly relaxed and oil prices dropped. A subtle easing of maritime restrictions was effectively traded for domestic economic relief, bypassing formal diplomacy to deliver a calculated drop in global oil prices. Meanwhile, the Iranian parliament maintains a firm stance. No direct negotiations with Washington are occurring. Because direct channels are closed, a silent network of middle power intermediaries operates out in public view to bridge the gap. Messages are routed through Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and Oman. The U.S. is pushing a specific 15-point plan to Tehran, utilizing Pakistan as the primary messenger. The critical detail about this plan is that several of its core demands are impossible for the Iranian government to accept. Why would Washington rely on third-party nations to deliver a treaty they know will be rejected, if the objective is securing peace? Peace is not the immediate objective here. These proxy nations act as a geopolitical thermometer, testing the waters to provoke a measurable reaction from Tehran. This provocation is designed to exploit a severe internal crisis. Over the past year, the elimination of multiple top-tier decision-makers has generated a profound power vacuum. While the supreme leader remains the visible public face of the state, this unified image covers a deeply fractured system. Decision-making authority has spread chaotically across a web of competing networks. By sending impossible demands, the U.S. applies targeted stress to the system, forcing factions to react. Observing which faction responds allows intelligence agencies to trace the hidden lines of actual authority. Once that true command structure is mapped, identifying the specific individuals wielding real power becomes possible, clearing the way for highly precise, targeted strikes. This indirect communication channel is ultimately a reconnaissance operation. It exposes the adversary's central nervous system to prepare the ground for the next tactical move. The timeline of events illustrates the mechanics of modern realpolitik, a system of diplomacy based on practical power over moral ideology. Public threats and suspended military operations secure crucial time while maintaining relentless psychological pressure. Subtle maritime signals allow both nations to manage escalation without losing face, simultaneously calming global energy markets. And back-channel diplomacy through proxy nations functions as a covert tool to map the fragmented authority within a rival government. Caught in this gray zone, somewhere between peace and active warfare, negotiations are rarely about drafting a mutually beneficial treaty. Instead, statecraft functions as an exercise in strategic positioning. Adversaries use ambiguous rhetoric and proxies to expose each other's weaknesses, carefully setting the board for their next inevitable move.